You know what this is? It's hard to restore a vehicle, but what if it's a truck? What if it's a small train? And what if it's not a train, but a motor coach? Although, to me, it's a train. But there is an exact definition for this green one. Auto motor coach. This vehicle is a self-propelled passenger car with its own integrated power unit. It is essentially a specialized type of car. The Tuscavaya Narrow Gauge Railway Museum is unique, an attempt to preserve living history. The history of our country is priceless, especially since here you have the chance to touch and ride the exhibits. And no one will say anything bad to you. The rolling stock is being restored. It is being restored and preserved to live, not just to stand as a monument. Everyone is curious, how much does a diesel locomotive cost now? No more, no less. 15 million. Well, that's the average, so to speak. Let me open Drome and see what you can get for that kind of money. Not bad. Lamborghini, BMW 7 Series, Rolls-Royce. But these cars can't work and earn money like our diesel locomotive can. If only you knew what kind of ruins the AM was restored from. Now that's truly patience and hard work. Now I'll show you some photos set to some dramatic music, and you'll understand, so to speak, the scale of this feat. The motor car's ancestors were passenger carriages for narrow gauge railways, known as PV40. But the national economy needs it. It was comfortable, and at the same time, it was an economical means of transport for delivering workers and residents of settlements that sprang up like mushrooms along the narrow gauge railway. And at the Demikovo plant, they chose the path of evolution. They bolted ahead onto a strong body, or rather two. One at the front and one at the back. Sorry for such analogies. Production began in 1962. The most important and unique thing about this vehicle, as well as the PV40 car, is that their bodies are of a load-bearing design, which was a significant difference from all previously produced domestic passenger cars for narrow-gauge railways. Instead of a frame, the car has a spine beam, made from two shells, and several welded crossbeams. The wall, roof, and floor paneling are included in the load-bearing frame. To increase rigidity, the body elements were made from solid corrugated sheets. The track gauge is 750 millimeters, so the motor car is not very wide. But again, it depends on what you compare it to. It is 12.5 meters long. The exterior width of the body is 2,400 millimeters. The height from the top of the rail is 3,370 millimeters, and just for reference, the weight, 15.5 tons, which is quite a lot. We've talked about the body. Now let's move on to the running gear. There are two bogies, a powered one and a supporting one. The supporting bogie is more or less straightforward. The wheel sets of the Railcar are equipped with axle boxes containing cylindrical and spherical roller bearings. Leaf springs and coil springs serve as the shock-absorbing elements. The powered bogie. At first glance, it looks no different from the supporting bogie. The difference lies in the wheel sets. Here, they are equipped with axle gearboxes, with brackets for these very gearboxes welded to the bogie frame. And there are also holes in the pivot beam to allow the cardan shaft to pass from one gearbox to the other. But comrades, before you now, the care of the Soviet government for the working people. And that's without any irony, believe me. So first, let's go to the living module. This is the place where workers are temporarily accommodated during transportation to the worksite. And it's cozy here. You have to understand that comfort in the late 1960s was not the same as comfort today. So by the standards of people hardened by battles and labor, this is very good. There are 37 seats available. Sometimes a trailer was attached to the back, so everyone had a place to sit. According to the calculations of the Demikovo plant, the automotor car could pull up to 5 carriages. In reality though, in damp weather, especially in autumn, especially when fallen leaves covered the rails, the motor car could barely move on its own without any trailers. Yes, the seats are wooden, but they're actually shaped quite well. The era of soft seats hadn't arrived yet. I told you, people were made of steel back then. The walls are finished with leatherette and painted plywood, linoleum on the floor, and there will be luggage racks, but they still need to be restored. Bakelite frames. Everything's intact. Even the ventilation up top is made of Bakelite. The little ceiling lamps. Luxury trim. It's amazing that back then they didn't skimp on materials for workers' train cars, using hardwoods. Seats, doors, and moldings were all made from beech, which made these parts extremely durable. But most importantly, it's warm here in winter. There are two heating systems. The first one is the starter system. That's a name I came up with this off. A diesel boiler is fired up, which heats both the engine and the cabin. And the second system uses the cooling system. For winter, additional frames were installed in the cabin, right on these pegs. This created a sort of double-glazed window effect. Part of the car is dedicated to the engine compartment. Naturally, it's separated from the passenger cavity. But most importantly, the folks from the Tesevo Narrow Gauge Railway Museum installed the engine. The very one that's supposed to be here, not the one that would have been easier and cheaper to stick in. Two-stroke. Diesel, inline, four-cylinder, two-stroke. And yes, it's a simplified copy of the American JMC 471. It was installed on Ma's trucks, boats, compressors, and on motor trolleys. It has a displacement of 4,165.4 cubic centimeters, a maximum power of 110 horsepower at 2,000 RPM, and a maximum torque of 461 Newton meters at 1,300 RPM. In the engine compartment, there is also a single fuel tank called the service tank. The second tank, the main one, is installed under the body. The total fuel capacity stored in these tanks is 250 liters. The cooling system. The original design solution was very unique. Look at the ceiling. In the shaft above the engine, the radiator and fan were positioned horizontally, and it was driven not by the engine, but by exhaust gases. Almost like a turbine, but just for cooling. It was decided not to restore this design due to its inefficiency and complexity. Instead, regular electric fans from Aniva were installed on the radiator. And there's also very little space. And if something happens to the engine, it will have to be taken out from here. Through the roof. Where's the driver's head? Right where the engine is. Although there are two seats for the operator, this was done for convenience in case there's no room to turn around. The driver's cab is designed for one person. In fact, the whole vehicle was operated by just one person. Just like on a submarine. There's also a heater here, Delifera, and the walls are insulated with packaged Mipura. I read it in a smart book. Mipura is a rigid porous material obtained from urea formaldehyde resins. Other names, pinoizo, liquid foam. During the restoration, Mipura was replaced with modern foam plastic. The driver has at their disposal a gear shift controller, an engine power controller, brake valves, typhon, and sandbox valves. So what do we have in terms of instruments? Yeah, for people like me, everything is labeled here. The clock is from a Volga 21. By the way, the radio receiver is from a Zhugli. Everything's cool. Cabin lighting, emergency diesel stop, headlight, dim headlight. Of course, you will also need a heater, the diesel water temperature, the diesel oil level, and the diesel pressure. To put it simply, everything really is labeled. On the right side, the power of its drives. I'll tell you later how to get it moving. On the left side are the gears. Well, it's actually all straightforward and easy to understand here. First, then second, and so on. Let's get started right now. On the left is the brake if you're driving with cars, and on the right is the actual motor control and the sandbox switches. There's a horn under your foot. You might ask, how do you start the engine? Like this. So the main thing is not to mix anything up. Shift into reverse and then move forward. Keep your foot firmly on the accelerator pedal and slowly release the parking brakes. Set the power to 2 in first gear. 1, 2, go. Motorist transmission is 8-speed, and it doesn't matter if you're going forward or backward. All 8 gears are available. And you don't need to use the clutch, but there's no automatic here either. This is pure socialist mechanics. The input shaft of the gearbox is rigidly connected to the engine's crankshaft. There is no clutch mechanism. The output shaft of the gearbox is connected to the output shaft of the reverse gearbox via a drive shaft. The reverse gearbox is mounted on the frame under the first cab. It provides the ability to change the direction of movement of the motor unit. The reverse gearbox is also connected to the axle reducer of the first wheel set of the bogie via drive shafts. The gearbox provides 4 gears. Another 4 gears are provided by the reverse gearbox, which also works as a low-range gear like on a UAZ. But why is there no clutch? The design of the motor unit uses multi-disc friction clutches and automatic overrunning clutches. That's the secret. The gears shift without any loss of power and, most importantly, remotely. The braking system on the AM is pneumatic. A compressor in the engine compartment pumps air into the reservoirs under the body. Their total volume is 125 liters. From there, compressed air is distributed to the brake pads on the bogies using a single brake cylinder and a lever mechanism. As I already mentioned, the motor unit is controlled remotely from the cab. But there's a safety system here called the vigilance pedal. So in order to shift gears or increase power, you have to keep the pedal pressed down at all times. If you release it, all the circuits are disconnected and the motor unit shuts down. Out in the real world, regular guys used to put a brick on that pedal. If, while moving, when the controller and reverser handles are not in neutral, you release the pedal, the transmission circuits are disengaged. The engine drops to idle and a bell starts ringing. You have 20 seconds. Either you press the pedal and keep going, or you set the controllers to neutral. Or you wait for emergency braking in 20 seconds. There's no window defrosting. They freeze up. Half the time, your feet freeze. Here, fixing anything at all is a big problem. Just so you understand, there are 3 onboard voltages here. 12, 24 volts DC, and 220 volts AC. The wiring diagram is so complicated, even the devil couldn't figure it out. From 1962 to 1972, DMZ produced 297 motor cars. Now in Russia, only one is still running, here in Tesovo-Natilskoye. There's another one in Romania, but there the original power unit was replaced with something more convenient to operate. As for those left as rusty shells used as sheds, you could count them on your fingers. Another 4 have been preserved in private collections. There are several reasons for this. First, the motor cars weren't liked, especially at smaller enterprises. Despite their stunning appearance, the AMs had way too many problems. gotten really warm inside the cabin, honestly. You could burn your hands on the radiators. So in winter, well, probably at minus 15 or 20, it's very comfortable in here, as long as you don't turn off the diesel, which is definitely a gas guzzler. Because of air leaks at numerous connections, the compressor often couldn't maintain the required pressure in the tanks. As a result, the effectiveness of the brakes decreased. There wasn't enough pressure for the pneumatic couplings responsible for shifting gears and operating other pneumatic equipment. The handbrake can effectively stop the car up to 15 kilometers per hour, but the AM can accelerate up to 60. And you can certainly believe me, that is not the entirely comprehensive list of shortcomings that the manufacturing plant workers didn't have enough time to fix before the motor units were decommissioned or left in distant sidings, just waiting to be completely dismantled and scrapped. But things are never perfect. This is our story. The Tyasovo Narrow Gauge Railway Museum, with the support of the Presidential Grants Fund and many people who care about this cause, restored it. The most beautiful narrow gauge train. Forgive me for the layman's train, it's so you can enjoy it. The hunt continues.